got the northern lights. Lights. Baby, you just kick your feet up while I kick back. I roll one with you by my side.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bold, Black, and Addicted to Bravo, because I am bold, Black, and addicted to Bravo. My name is Nyemade, or That African Butterfly, as I'm known on social media, and this is my show where we talk about all things Bravo. Stephanie is in her groove tonight.
I am. I don't know why.
We talk about all things Bravo, but through all things life, but through the lens of our Bravo shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to have my guest with me today, Stephanie. If you've been watching this or listening, you know her voice, you know her face, but she will still introduce herself. Stephanie, tell the people about you.
I will. It's like my reputation precedes me, apparently, allegedly. But I'm Stephanie. I'm host of the Mocha Minutes podcast. There's me. Yes. I'm everywhere.
So we're going to jump right into the topic today, which is rich, entitled, and out of touch.
Everybody.
Because I think that applies to a lot of Bravo people. But, my first question is, though, isn't that what we want sometimes? Like, sometimes I feel like I hear people give them flack for it, but I feel like there are certain shows, like, that's why I'm watching. Like, I'm not watching to see you relate to me. I'm watching so I can say, like, why? Like, look at all the money they have. That's kind of cool. That's fun. Look at the things they do. Like, do we really want them to be that relatable to us?
No, it was like, if I want relatable, I'm going to go on Below Deck or Top Chef. Like, girl, what are we talking about? It's like, if you're the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I better see some bling. You better just be wearing like a dress with a train to go to Walmart. Like, I'm not looking for I need delusions of grandeur. Focusing on the grandeur.
Right.
I need that.
Yeah, that's why I agree. And that's why I love those shows. And it's interesting because I think it's like the way people's minds work though, right? Like some people can see people have great things and they're jealous. Some people can see people have great things and they're like, good for you. Like, I don't have it. Right. Maybe I'll get it one day, but good for you. And then some people see things and they don't care because they don't want any of that stuff. But I think people tell on themselves loudly when they want to complain about how not relatable some of the people are, because it's like, well, why are you that upset?
Because this will be very clear. The ones that are probably ones that are very relatable, y'all low-key call them boring. They're boring housewives. It's
that part, they always,
because they're so relatable and so ordinary. I'm like, yeah, but okay. You're like, oh, I can't relate to them. I'm like, but that would make them boring, right?
You think? I mean, I think so, because I can watch. Like, that's my thing. It's like I can watch myself do real life, and not to diss other pages or other stations and shows, but if I want to relatable, I'd watch TLC. Like, I don't. Like, that's some real life stuff.
Unless you're watching Sister Wives, and then it's like, girl, can I be one of the children who drags y'all on YouTube? One of those kids. I think it's Christine's daughter who has a reaction show, so she's reacting to all the episodes, and when I tell you she has me on the floor because she'll stop, that's not what happened.
Oh, really?
That's not. I said,
ooh, see, like, I would watch that. That would be interesting.
It's funny. Gwen Brown cracks me up.
But yeah, I just think that it's interesting too, seeing the different housewives, like seeing what people will say is like, oh, that's so outlandish, like seeing someone spend like $10,000 for a birthday party for a child.
Like, remember when they used to show the money on the screen and show exactly like how much?
I enjoyed those days. I wanted to know.
Taylor spent how much now?
But then you have like Robin, where everyone's dissing her for not going above and beyond for the family fun day. I mean, I do think there's space in the middle of those two.
Y'all, and that's the thing. Everybody know that I'm in the Dixon district. I've been on LOA for like 5 weeks now. I've seen a preview of Potomac, and here I come roaring back. I'm like, oh, I guess I can put in that I'm, returning to work. Right. But that's one of the reasons why it's so interesting. It's like, girl, you ain't put no money behind it. It is cheap. But then y'all say, oh, you are spending way too much. It is a 3-year-old's birthday. But y'all said relatable, no?
Well, and I think also, I mean, a major thing is that, like, it's all relative, right? So, and I've noticed this as I've moved on up, not that I've moved up very far, but I do know that there were times, and I mean, on a bad day, there's still times where it's like $5 is like a big deal. And then there's times where it's like $20 is like a big, you know what I mean? Like there's times where it's like, oh man, like, or not even a big deal, like where it's not nothing, but you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, this is $5. Like, all right. And then there's times where it's like, oh, this is 20. It's like, all right. And if you talk to someone though who's in the stage where $5 is a big deal and you're throwing away 20, it's like, it's not a big deal. Like to them, you're being reckless with your money. You don't have the value, blah, blah, blah. So I think people need to like realize that that's the lens we're looking at it while they're spending thousands and thousands. Like we see 20,000 and we're like, oh my gosh, that's so much. That's probably like $100. That's probably like them spending 20,000 on a birthday party for a 3-year-old. It's probably the equation of us spending like $100 on a birthday party for a 3-year-old.
Like I really remember when they went, kimosabe with the hats and they're putting them on fire. Like it was like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. But y'all wanted Erica to keep them diamond earrings. I'm like, one, Kyle's a millionaire, so this really is no skin off her nose. No, it really is not. It's like, I mean, if you got it, flaunt it. Well,
listen, if I ever get rich, I'll be flaunting it. Not flaunting, but I'm not going to apologize for it. But I do, and I do think also though, it's interesting because kind of universally, and we all like, we'll make jokes about the whole marrying rich, right? But we joke, but we're kind of serious about how like that's the goal. Like you don't really want to be a gold digger, but if you could find someone to marry to pay all your bills and give you all the money, like you go, girl. But then the minute a woman does that, we're like, oh, she's so horrible. Oh, it's your husband's money. And I especially hate when women do that to other women, especially like when they have kids and things like that. And they're like, oh, well, it's not your money. It's your husband's. Like, well, she's part of that life now. They've helped to build it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it's like, why are we dissing them for something we've all agreed is the goalpost?
Like, there's a lot of us who don't want to work. There was a point in my life that I was like, I would never want to be a housewife. And now I'm like, girl, if you mean I can unplug from this job.
Right. That
part. Are you kidding me? I would go. But then I also watched She-Devil this week. And man, it's a very interesting rewatch. I'm like, gotta be his ass. It's like, are you kidding me? But the fact that she burned his whole house down, she's like, girl, figure it out.
Well, I could never be like fully dependent on a man. I just am not built that way. I'm not set up that way. I
also wasn't raised that way by my dad.
I barely like asking my mother for permission growing up to do things, let alone being a grown woman asking a man for permission to do things, like if I could find someone who, was like, here's what you could spend and do whatever, and still saw me as an equal, which I understand also why it's hard for them to see someone as an equal when they're not contributing. I do think though that once you start having kids and that person is taking care of your children,
especially if it's like you're not really there for the rearing. It's like, you can be quiet.
Yeah, it always amazes me. And I see Lauren's popped on, but she's not on camera yet. So I don't know. So when it records, she probably won't be seen yet. But when she's on, there she is. Hi.
Poison Ivy. Ooh, what are you doing? Wait a minute, hold on. I was like, wait, she about to do a bounty roll. What's she about to do?
No. I just smoked and I was like, oh, I gotta hide it. And then, hey,
Lauren, it has been a year of Sundays. OMG.
How are you?
Oh, girl, fairly
We're making it. We're just doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we
really
can.
all are.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how like at the end of the day, it's kind of like the goal, right? To find the rich husband, to, even if you're an independent woman, it still would be nice to find someone to help take care of all of those things. But then somehow when a woman does that, suddenly everyone's against her. Like she's a horrible person for doing that. And she brings no value and no worth. And it's like, what the heck?
Well, misery loves company. And I think that the green-eyed monster can pop out because I think that it is such it's kind of taboo because it is an imbalance of, I guess, it could be an imbalance in people's like marriages, right? But from the outside looking in, right? Like even when I heard you say, it's not your money, it's your husband's money. Well, Larsa said the same thing to Lisa. And I saw that and I was like, oof, that hurts.
Like, are you one to say that? Can you say that about
me? Great. I'm glad you touched on her.
Right. I love her. But
Larsa.
She is a force multiplier in Carlos's words. But what I can appreciate is, or I guess when she said that, I felt like, well, you did that too. You didn't work because you raised your kids. I know it's a different scenario for Lisa because it took them a little longer, but I think coming from, listen, I've met Lenny, okay? I think that there was a decision that she wasn't going to work, that she was going to be his wife. So when Larsa said that, I was kind of like, damn, that's a dig, because despite the fact that he was working, she built that life. Like they were a team. And I think that has to be like recognized and not kind of thrown in her face, you know?
Yeah, and I think that that's what upsets me, is that it's not like the woman's contribution is always seen as less. And like you said, like there's going to be that power dynamic because one's bringing in. And I think even when it's just a marriage, there should still be that level of respect. But I especially feel so when there's children involved and the wife is doing a majority of the child rearing, even if there's nannies, like they're still taken care of. And I think that men also don't realize, like, at the end of the day, especially once you're rich and you have like people that you deal with who do stuff, like you're operations manager. Yes, you're a wife, but you have to operations manager that household. You have to deal with all of the staff. You have to make sure things go smoothly, and that deserves some credit. So figure out how much that person would be making in a role, and that's what they're doing at home. And so they are contributing. They're making sure those things are done to take that emotional and mental you know, weight off of his shoulders. And so it's very frustrating.
If you were going to flip it, think of when Marge said that to Jennifer Aiden. Jennifer Aiden's a mom of 5. Listen, I can't imagine over 2.
Right.
And she had 5 whole children. And also with Lisa, it's like her journey to motherhood was a struggle. It was not easy. She had several different miscarriages. And I think it's very interesting that Larsa Pippen is saying this about someone. I'm like, ma'am, your last name is Pippen. 2, you were a great value Kardashian. 3, if I was Lisa, I'd have punched you right in your face. And it's like, I find it very interesting so that no, it's the thing about it, like from Larsa, because one, she didn't like it when those women did it to her first season. So why would you turn around and do it to Lisa? It's like you don't like when you didn't like when they did that to you. You didn't like when Adriana called you a wannabe Kardashian. So why are you trying? And I find it very interesting to watch the women who are have gone through a divorce and they were in like a very affluent lifestyle, and now they're looked down their nose at women in the affluent lifestyle and just go like, oh, you were just a stay-at-home wife. You were just a housewife. Larsa, so were you.
I think the memory can be
if it
short.
was like someone like me, like if it was someone outside of the lifestyle saying that, okay, but you live that lifestyle, so why are you dissing someone in the same role you are in? And I think people also forget that, like, oftentimes the men see their wives or partner staying home as a sign of their wealth and their affluence, and they don't want them to work. Like
they don't have to work. They want to stay home.
To work. Yeah, they want them to stay home because they want to be able to say, hey, my wife has everything. I take care of all of it for her. She doesn't raise a finger, even though then they weaponize it later. But for the most part, they also often don't want them to work.
Because the dynamic between like a Marge and a Jennifer is very, very interesting. Because let's be very clear, Jen Aiden don't want to work. Margaret Joseph, you go out to work. And I think it's very interesting, her dynamic with this, because you love calling, like, you started with her first, called her a concubine. You call me a concubine. All bets are off. I'm like, man.
Wait, who called who a concubine first? Jen?
Marge.
Marge.
Marge
I thought Jennifer started with the stuff about, because Marge talked about her book and the stuff with her boss, and then Jen said the stuff about
the concubine thing was before that, because she said it. Yeah, that was the season before. So that the
was like, I just didn't like your response because and it was Jen was, I think, was a little buzzy. They were at the table, and she was like, "I don't like that."
Right. So the thing about it is like, Margaret, you call this woman concubine because she's a stay-at-home wife. Meanwhile, you and Joe were both married to 2 different people, and y'all left both of y'all relationships to be with each other. You don't want people to actually bring it up, but you don't mind bringing up people's other stuff.
Right.
Like, and then
cool. And so Jennifer, think about it too. 5 kids. That has been her role, has been to be a wife and mother. Like that has been her job.
Did she lose a child too?
Maybe, I don't know. But either way, I just listen.
But think of the flip side. Jennifer being like, why does Jackie's kids only have pizza in terms of doing too
That's very
much?
True.
Right.
So again, it is a lifestyle because Jennifer, she's not going to go to work. In fact, Real Housewives is her job. And if they didn't have the show, she wouldn't have a job. And also, I think it is a kind of like you said, like it's you want people to see how wealthy you are. Jennifer's not going to have
be envious of your lifestyle.
Right. She's going to have a nice overdone birthday party for a 4-year-old.
11 bathrooms.
Maybe Jackie wouldn't.
Well, I think it's just very much people who live their life for how it's perceived by others. And especially, not that everyone doesn't, but I definitely notice that those of us who come from immigrant culture have that a lot, because it's very much forced down on like everything. And you hear it too, like even when parents talk about like their kids, like what would they think? What would so-and-so think? It's not so much like, what do I think about this? It's like, what does
they think?
The community, what does everyone think? And so I see it like I said, we definitely have it here in America, but especially from other cultures, it's like, we care so much. Well, I don't give a flying hoot, which I'm sure drives my mother insane, but so much what other people think. And I think that a lot of people who think like that also don't understand how other people don't think like that. Like how other people, and like I just mentioned my mom, like there'll be times where I'm like, well, I don't care. And I don't mean it to be a brat. I just don't care. But like, she's like, what do you mean you don't care?
What do you mean you don't care? What do you mean you don't want this lifestyle? What do you mean? Because you think about the housewives and Bravo celebrities from like an immigrant background. You think of the Shaws, you think of Family Karma, you think of Margaret, you think of Wendy, you think of Jeide. It's like you think about
like
how
bigger, better, wealthier.
Yeah, Alexia too. It's like you can look at like the Real Housewives of Miami. You look at how they look at things. You're like, you look at this for a certain reason, but then you see like a Julia who, not really,
right?
And then you think about, like Jackie, they thought Jackie was a brokey, and she is not. And they're like,
see, and Jackie is my type of wealth.
You don't.
Yes, and Jackie is my type of wealth. Like she is my type of like. I don't care. Well, I don't care so much about like what. Like I'm not going to be the person who like I need to have like a huge mansion, like Toya buying that, or Quad buying that huge mansion on Married to Medicine, because everybody was saying stuff about her penthouse or her apartment. Girl, are you kidding me? You live by yourself. Why are you spending all that money so everybody can see how much money you have when you could literally save money? Like I would rather save the money and get first class everything when I travel, stay at the bougiest hotels when I travel. But it's also a matter of like what matters to you. Like I'm not buying.
I just noticed the dog. I was like, wait,
I can't get rid of her. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But like I'm not buying a house, and I'm not doing those things for the show of other people. So it's going to be like my comfort, and I would rather spend money doing other things. So like when Jackie's like, I'm not spending a ton on a party, but I'm going to take them, fly them across the country to go to this baseball game and get like Dodger seats. Like to me, that's how I'd be rolling with my money too.
Yeah, it's kind of like. It's so funny when you think about the Married to Medicine dynamics. Also, it's a fun rewatch to start from season 1. And I'm like,
I bet.
Oh, Toya and Quad have never liked each other. Oh my God, this is great. Day one, they hate each other. But then you look at the culture between them because they're all married to doctors or they are doctors. And you looked at like the MRS MD, and they hated when you said that. And then the MDs, it's like Jackie Walters is loaded. So it's somewhat Simone, after she got over the debacle with her billing system, when that IT person lived in her house and was laid off, could actually helped her, but that's neither here nor there. But then you look at like the wives of doctors, and you're just like, Jackie Walters is loaded. And she's like, she did have, and that's the thing, she bought a nice big old house because one, she could afford it, but it was just her and Curtis. And it was just like, and because Curtis didn't want to adopt children because they couldn't physically have children. So it's kind of like, if it ain't tricking if I got it. Like if I could actually afford it, because it seems like when Quad was married to Greg, she had to pay for shit. So guess what? All them Married to Medicine checks for the last 9 years went into the whole bank. Whatever she meant, I'm like, oh girl, I'm like, this ain't nothing because I can afford it. It's like,
well, also Jackie doesn't strike me as the type who is buying a house like that for what other people think. Like,
no.
You know what I mean? Like,
Jackie's buying a work in those houses. I was like,
because she loves it and she has the money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Quad having that type of house.
Yeah, sure, no.
But like, because maybe home is her thing, because that is for some people like that is their thing that.
Because that would be my thing. But it's like, I'm sorry, seemed pristine and peace.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was more so because she didn't like them talking about her apartment. I'm like, that's not a reason to spend all that cash on that. Like, hold off, maybe save a little longer.
Like, did she really want that big house, or did she really want
I would be putting that money into investment properties. Like real estate is such a good way to build your portfolio. So if you have the money, get like some Airbnb, and maybe she does all that. We don't know her coins, but like I just feel like there's other ways to spend that money.
Because I feel like because you do have a point, and I think it's really because one is kind of like you go, why are you doing that? But no one questioned when Portia did. It's like Portia did the same thing. She bought a nice big old house, and it may not be in, central Atlanta. It might be on the outskirts. You got to travel like 90 minutes away, but no one questioned when she got a house. And I'm like, girl, ain't nobody here except you.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, what are y'all doing? No one's like, she by Sheree. Sheree or Kenya.
Well, Sheree had the kids, and Kenya was getting a kid. And
what I think she was still by herself, though.
Yeah, I think it's probably more so the way it was introduced. Yeah. I think it's more so the way it was introduced. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess they really wouldn't be on the screens if they had like tiny regular houses.
You can't be in, right? Like literally, I remember people were like coming at the Potomac women when Robin was living in Hanover. I'm like, I knew exactly where she was. I'm like, girl, I could somewhat afford to live over there. But it's like, again, that was relatable. I'm like, I know exactly where Hanover, Maryland is. Let's be very clear. I know exactly.
And Lauren, that's how we sort of started the conversation. Where like I was saying, like people complain about people being over the top, but at the same time, they don't like them when they're relatable because then they complain that they're too poor. So it's like, what do you want? What do you want from them?
I want non-relatable, right? Like I feel like, I'm sorry for the ladies. I feel like Sutton is a non-relatable relator in a way that I feel and know deep in my soul how old that money is. Okay. Old in a way that is not relatable.
So what do you find relatable about her?
Wait for it. But I feel like she is a person that I guess I expect what I get from Sutton. Right? That's what it is. I expect
that makes sense.
A Southern woman from Georgia that perhaps might end up like a Cumberbatch. You never know. But that is her story. That is what it. Like you already know.
It doesn't seem like she's putting on airs like it might with like an Erica, which we love seeing Erica spend her money, blah, blah, blah. But it definitely felt like she was trying so hard, and a Jen Shaw. And actually that was going to be my next question with them is like, why do you think people love the people who seem so over the top with it? Like, but then at the same time, I feel like there's mirrors of that they'll hate. So like, they'll love a Jen Shaw for saying she spends $80,000 on a birthday party or blah, blah, blah. But then like, they'll hate a Heather because she spends so much. And it's like, well, Heather has a ton of money legally. Do you think it's because the only thing I think also though, with like a Jen Shaw and Erica, the only thing I think also with the Jen Shaw and Erica, which unfortunately Jen Shaw ended up being crime, is that they both were seeming to bring on a lot of the money themselves as well. Like Erica's husband had a lot of money, but we saw Erica doing shows. We saw her traveling, even though we now know that she wasn't really bringing in money with that. She was probably spending more than she made.
She said it was Tom Girardi's private jet. So we knew it was Girardi dang, honey.
But people loved it though. People loved her being over the top and ridiculous about her money.
They knew who Tom Girardi was. It's like, that's the guy from Erin Brockovich. Oh, she has money.
So do you think it's just that like when people feel like in their mind that person is deserving of it, or that person is built into that lifestyle, then we love it, but when we feel like they're not, we're like, we don't like it?
Like people don't like Heather Dubrow. I get it. She's a bit snooty and a control freak. In fact, I'm gonna meet her where she is, quite snooty and a control freak. But Heather, like, come on, like, we know that before Terry could get up in there on the plastics, that old money came from Heather. She even said it. Like we know that she was very comfortable, quite comfortable growing up, right? Which means, again, I'm taking you as you are, Sutton, Heather Dubrow. Listen, it may feel uncomfortable. They, in fact, might be snobby, but par for the course with these two. That's how they were raised. And so that air that they're putting on It is there. It is part of their personality. And I think with the other people like a Jen Shaw and an Erica, it's like they made it a character, not
a personality.
Not this is just who they are.
Because I do think that people give people more grace also in some cases when they feel like it's built in, like with a Kathy Hilton, like she can be as ridiculous as she wants because she has so much money and she can do weird things and people are like, it's quirky, it's just Kathy. It's just Kathy. But I think if she wasn't that rich, she wouldn't get the it's quirky, it's just Kathy storyline, like the stuff at the awards ceremony with her purse and like you know what I mean? Like people are like wearing
and I also think household name and longevity. Right. Household name and longevity. Because I wouldn't think that Dubrow could do that on stage.
Yeah, no, you thought like Hilton is like throwing pebbles at the castle. You're not going to do this with the Hiltons. So when I think about relatable, unrelatable person, like I have 3 people in mind. One of them, Caroline Manzo, which is a very interesting one. Also, Kyle Richards, because it's like you would look like
unrelatable or relatable.
Is relatable, but somewhat unrelatable because she's richer than she puts on, and it's kind of like it's always been very interesting about Kyle. I'm like, wait a minute, Kyle. They are very wealthy.
Well, they also have gotten very wealthy since the show. Like they definitely were wealthy before, but now they're like
uber wealthy because they walked into it. Because like that house had been there since like from the beginning.
Oh, can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. I hit the mute button. I didn't know my own. I was like, I've never hit the mute button on my own microphone. It's like I've never shut my own self up. But yeah, it's kind of like you go, they have a lot of money and then they got more money. It's like,
but you don't notice a huge change. And I think like that's also what I've always liked about Kyle. Like, I think if we knew how much they made when they started versus how much they make now, because they've had the production, like Kyle alone has made so much, and Marisa has gone from being like a well-to-do real estate agent to having multiple high-end luxury. Like their wealth has probably grown so exponentially. I keep using that word because of our conversation earlier, but it's grown so much, but you don't notice a huge change. Like she's still like the same kind of Kyle about it. They just moving with more money.
And you don't see a lot of them do that. It's kind of like you see, like if you even look at their wigs and their glam, it's like, oh girl, the checks must be coming in because man, you look better now. But essentially, Kyle don't look all that much different.
She looks a bit different, but I think that's also
she looks better. It's just getting enhanced.
It's also like 10 years on
but it wasn't years on television because she was doing that. But also the person that Pinky came into this franchise. People did not know who Lisa Vanderpump is, and now they're like, she's one of my favorite wealthy white women because she has swans in her house. What the fuck do you need a swan for? 2 of them, beautiful, and a swing with flowers. I love it.
I think also people forget like how many wealthy people there are in the world. Like, I really think that
you don't have to bring
celebrities and they're like, oh, celebrities and sports people, and that's it. I'm like, listen, when they show you a celebrity's house that's on a hill, it's surrounded by other houses that are not celebrity houses. Those people
plastic surgeons
have a ton of money, right? They're doctors, they're people with real estate. There's
engineers.
There's actually like a lot of wealthy people that we've never heard of, will never hear of, know nothing about. We're just lucky that we have like even a small glimpse into it. And we also have to realize that the glimpse that we have into all of those societies aren't even the wealthiest, because the wealthiest aren't going to be on camera. The wealthiest people in Beverly Hills aren't going to be on camera. The wealthiest people in New York City aren't on camera. Like, it's even more than what we're seeing.
Let's be very clear. Potomac is a very wealthy area. There's a reason why a lot of Potomac people weren't on there, because they're not going to do that. Potomac is a very affluent area. So it's like, there's a lot of Sharice Jackson Jordans there with champagne rooms, because
rolled out of beds for sure. Yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of rolled out of beds.
So that's the thing. So when I think, so that was the beauty of Beverly Hills, because essentially it was a cast full of people that you just didn't know, but they were extremely wealthy. And then y'all kept bringing out every actress. I'm like, y'all got lightning in battle with Lisa Vanderpump. So people didn't know. I'm like, oh, she owns a bunch of restaurants. I'm like, find another Adrienne Maloof who owns a basketball team.
But I want more of those people back, actually.
Correct. I'm like, bring another restaurateur. Bring somebody who, like, somebody you don't know. Don't bring an
like, I want people who need golf carts to drive around their house. Like, I want to see them.
Somebody with an elevator in their house, because they got to get up and go.
Yes, that's what I want. That's actually kind of what I was hoping for with the recasting of New York. Like, I'm not upset about the younger cast, and I think it'll be interesting. I do still like, I really though in my core miss like very rich, out of touch, middle-aged or
We
past
need Jill
middle-aged
Zarin
woman.
back. We need a Jill Zarin.
A Jill Zarin who's just out of it. A
Countess.
Sutton. We need people like Sutton. There's a reason why Sutton is a good housewife. Like she's has her money and she's with it, but she's also not with it. She doesn't know how to produce herself. She's just who she is. We need more of those.
I mean, we need early days signature necklace Countess Luann, who was like completely and utterly ridiculous.
Alex McCord
from New York. I
I'm so glad
she's back on my screen. I miss Alex McCord. Wait.
Listen, they lived in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn before.
Well, you're like, I was in Brooklyn. I said, girl, let's go.
Yes.
That's who I want on my screen.
And as much as I can't stand Ramona, having Alex back would almost make me want to have Ramona, only because the way Alex and Simon used to irritate the shit out of Ramona.
She is our first reunion walk-off.
Like through her body. If Simon showed up to anything, Ramona lost her mind.
She
and
broke out in hives. It was actually the funniest thing. Ew. Oh my God, I just hate them. They are having sex in public because they're fucking. Why are you acting like they're not married? Like, what is happening?
Did you guys see the picture where it was like, no one can forget this iconic top, and it's the shirt with the chain that Alex wore? Like the top. Again, that's who I need as a housewife.
Yeah, that's who we need.
In touch.
Who told you to get me wet? Who told you to get me wet? This lady.
So, like, let's really quick to wrap it up, but also let's go through this housewives. Ooh. And I want to find out who you think is the most entitled or behaves the most entitled out of each of the franchises.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh Lord.
So since we're already on New York, let's talk about New York.
All of New York?
Yes.
Past and present.
Ooh, do we want to do past and present? We can do that if you want.
All of them. Except Alex McCord.
I feel like Sonia very much. Well, okay.
Mine is the Countess.
Back when she was a countess, absolutely, hands down, it was Luann. But I also feel like Sonia as well, because as much as she tries to be like, I'm so relatable, the woman was getting like 10,000, was it 2,000 or $10,000 checks that she's like, oh, it's 2,000. And she's like, that's such a small amount, I can't be bothered to cash it.
I would have to say it's Jill, Ramona, and Luann, hands down.
Yeah,
it's like those three. It's like,
oh yeah, Ramona a lot, especially like with her traveling and wanting everyone to do stuff for her. But Ramona very much gave me new money in that sense. Like,
oh my God,
I worked hard to have my money.
My shit. Like, girl, shut up.
She wanted to live the life that she thought rich people live, which actually they do. They just do it in a different way.
But they don't have to ask.
That part. She didn't realize she was not there yet. So then we had to see her ass. So then it makes her look like, you know, whatever, instead of just having it done.
Okay.
All right. What about Jersey?
Teresa.
yeah, I would agree. I think so as well. Whether she should have been or not, definitely Teresa.
Yeah. Teresa.
Potomac.
Aaron.
But I feel like she doesn't act like it in a bad way though. Like, I don't really get it from any of the Potomac women. I'm not saying that because I like them. I just don't really get the whole like, I'm out of touch. Like, I have so much money, I'm out of touch. I don't get that.
Because Nyemade, I will tell you, everybody, and y'all all know this, I have flat out said that Potomac is the best ensemble of housewives ever. Yeah. I all like them. If I think about someone who like thinks they're entitled, I guess you can also add Mia Thornton to that list, but it would be Mia and it would be Karen, yeah. And it's like, but it's in a, I think it's because it's in an entertaining way. It's like, of course, Karen thinks this. Like, girl, what?
Yeah. Karen is like who you should think you are. Like, it's so funny. I was watching recently and Giselle was like, oh, Karen just thinks the world revolves around her and we just live in her world. I'm like, that's how she should think. That's how we should all think.
And that's how she walks into this franchise. It's like, ma'am, if it is your birthday and you were 2 hours late, then ask them to move the fuck over, Karen.
Yeah. I mean, you should still be respectful of other people, so don't go over the top, but you should still, I always tell people,
like, I'm gonna give you this manners book because you sit in the middle of my table, even though I was like 2 hours late for my own party. Girl, shut up.
That part. What about Atlanta?
I'm
Nene.
sorry about my dog.
I love Nene, but it's like, it's Nene. To a certain extent, it's Sheree. Hands down, Sheree. Kim.
Do you think Sheree acts entitled with her money?
Candy.
Yes.
Because Candy had to work last season for the first time, and I don't know how many years. And granted, I love everything that she does, but I just also feel like Candy's like, well, I'm just here. And I was very happy that she gave last season, because previous seasons it was, y'all should just be happy that I'm here. And I said what I said.
Respectfully,
let me tell you,
I don't want to
love
go
Candy
for another half hour. Definitely do not agree with that. I feel like Candy has always shown up and showed parts of her life. I think that we expect strife from a housewife to say that they've shown up, that we expect them to have some type of like foiler issue. And even then she's had stuff. She had that stuff with Mama Joyce and Todd. She's had it over the years. People just forget. But
there's something I love about
do
Candy.
think as the richest, I do think she actually doesn't act entitled about her money
She
compared
doesn't.
to everyone else, since she probably has the most money.
She has the most money. If I say entitled, I mean, I'm going to go with after Phaedra left, when Atlanta went downhill. I just am asking, where was Candy?
Okay. All right.
That's all.
All right. Well, we respectfully let you have that opinion.
That's fine.
All right. Miami.
And then.
Oh, sorry.
And then after that, I hate to say it.
Say it.
Entitled.
It's needed.
It rhymes with Renee.
It would I don't want to say Nene, but I know it is.
It's Nene.
I don't want.
The minute that girl got money,
Zolciak.
Kim too.
Thank you. I said Kim and I said Sheree. Most notably Kim Zolciak.
Really, Sheree?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think Sheree either, but I hear you.
I think no, ma'am, you are very entitled. If you think you don't have to pay anybody, they should just be so blessed to like do stuff for you. It's like it is Sheree. Sheree's like,
that's true.
I gotta pay people if I don't like it. Yes, bitch, you gotta pay for services. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, good point.
That's
Sheree,
true.
shut the hell up.
All right, what about Miami?
Marisol, Alexia, Larsa. I said it.
It's Alexia.
It's Alexia.
Even though she's dealt with a lot, but she's also
it is very much Alexia, because I'm like, you're not gonna talk to me like I'm crazy. If I was Gertie, I'd have cussed her ass out. Forget these kids. Fuck these motherfucking cameras. Girl, I will beat your ass. Alexia lost her mind.
Yeah.
When she's like, who are you?
When I have a Julia grates on me, but I'm glad Julia called her ass. Out. What the hell do you mean? It's like, thank you, Julia. Get her.
Yeah.
Right.
Get her.
Agreed. What about Salt Lake City?
We just can't.
Who isn't?
Like, right.
It's Jen Shaw.
It's not.
It's definitely Jen Shaw.
Not entitled.
Entitled and audacious. I think.
Lisa
and delusional.
Lisa Meredith. This season she's engaged, and girl,
Meredith has been.
She's up and down for me.
I don't even want to get into Meredith this season because she's turned into a housewife. What I'll say about Meredith is that she's turned into a housewife at this point. She fully understands the housewife assignment, and she is engaged in being a housewife and no longer being Meredith. And you know, whatever. Keep getting your check, girl.
What have you said,
Orange
baby?
County. I know you're gonna say Heather.
No, I was going to say Victoria.
Victoria.
Vicky Gunvalson.
Oh, I think I would pick her.
Vicky too, especially because Vicky works so hard. Oh, I know, me too. I love Heather. I think also because Vicky works so hard for her money. She's like a Ramona, where she feels like it allows her to be that way. And I'm not gonna lie, guys. As I get money, I can't promise you I won't be like that either. I tell people, like, I always tell my family and friends, I'm like, I am very bougie and snobby. I'm just poor. So don't, like, when I get money, don't say I've changed. I'm like, don't say I've changed. I haven't changed. I will just be able to finally act on the way I've been inside.
I love that.
Bougie as hell. So I've always liked Heather. But yeah, I think Vicky is definitely one of them.
In terms of entitlement, right? Or like over the top.
Yeah, because I think for Heather, it's just kind of like her, like when she walked in a wealthy ass bitch, and it has somewhat whispered, right? Because it's like, you must be bougie as hell that you want to throw away like thousands of dollars of sushi instead of just letting people take that shit home.
Well, and that's kind of like what we were saying earlier when we were talking about it. Like, people forget that they have so much money that like $10,000 to them is 20 to us. Like, so
it means nothing.
A big deal, but not a big deal.
Right.
It's not that big of a deal to them. It's not. There's a reason why all their purses are 5-digit numbers for a purse. You know, it's not that big of a deal to them.
Right.
And then finally, Beverly Hills.
And we're going over the top here.
And I love how we're just skipping over Dallas.
I mean, if you want to discuss Dallas,
it's like, no, it's nothing needed. It's Stephanie Holman. Yeah.
And,
but we will bring back to Married to Medicine, but
it's Dorit for me. And it's not in a Dorit hate or anything. Fabulous wind chimes. You know what I mean? It's just, again, the wind chimes. Again, the head to toe. I love her labels because Heather gives a label too. And I just feel like she's completely over the top while also literally low-key having money issues on the side. And that's why I pitched Dorit, and that's why.
No, that makes sense. I was going to ask because I know Dorit kind of had an accent. And is she from overseas? Because remember we were saying earlier too about how people are so much like, I care.
She's from Connecticut.
Okay, all right, never mind then. But she is definitely one of those who cares like so much how she is perceived, which I think because I used to be a people pleaser, I just find it so exhausting. And I'm like, but I grew out of that. Like I was a teenager like that, and I grew out of it. And I'm watching people in like their 50s and 60s still having the mentality I had when I was like 18. Like,
if I had to pick somebody, and it's so weird because it's like, I can see Dorit, but my other person would be Camille.
Oh my goodness. Do you remember her first season? She was so
We're about to get her again, aren't we?
I hope not, because I'm like,
she's on the girls trip.
She's on the girls trip, yeah.
She is.
I mean, I do think she has fun sides to her. But yeah, she was quite obnoxious that first season. She was definitely one of, she was like a Dana, like, my $25,000 sunglasses. Like, girl, you're doing too much.
Just $25,000. And that didn't even bother me. It was just kind of like, you just seemed like you were really happy that you had
Wait, can I throw in the woman for OC that came for like a season and she had one season and I think she was raised in a cult or like at a commune. Remember her?
You're not talking about the witch, right?
Was she have like the dark hair and like the two daughters?
I feel like it was like blondish.
Then I don't know. And the witch was Beverly Hills. That was Carlton.
That was Carlton, but she was like, she came into Orange County and it was not the season. Heather wasn't on it. It was before.
When Alexis was still there? I don't recall.
To figure out who this is.
We'll try to recall. If you watch
it'll come to me.
Leave something in the comments.
Because you said she was she was only on there for one season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whose friend was she? Do you remember?
I feel like she was kind of Emily and Gina's friend, but not. And she was on the same season as the woman with the kids who like left her husband and is now very like fluid and
yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't think of the name. It'll come to me. I'm sorry.
She was only on one season because now I'm sitting here like,
but yeah. So as far as was the title called Rich, Entitled, and Out of Touch? I think that they're all a bit rich, entitled, and out of touch. But that is the purpose of being a housewife or Married to Medicine. Which, by the way, we didn't touch on them, but I would say Mariah would have been my person for Married to Medicine.
It's Toya for me.
Toya.
Oh, it's Toya. It's Mariah.
Yes.
And it was the Crypt Keeper too. What's her name? Carrie.
Who's the Crypt Keeper?
Carrie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I do like that Married to Medicine has the cameos. And what do you think about Phaedra coming?
I think there's a great conversation to be had, and I can't wait till we discuss it on another episode.
Yes.
Or after we stop hitting record on this one. But for this episode, I want to say thank you both so much for joining. I always love when we have these conversations. You are my girls. I enjoy them. And I'll include their links to everything below. But thank you all for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Maybe you just kick your feet up while I kick back. I roll one with you by my side.